Hey everyone, my name is Antoinette Del Vasto. I'm the co-chair of Fredericton Pride. I'm here with Jenica Atwin today, who is running for our 2026 mayoral candidate of Fredericton, New Brunswick. We're going to begin here with a land acknowledgement. I'm going to let Jenica take over for right now.
Great. Yeah, so just always great to start with a land acknowledgement, to acknowledge that we're gathered on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Wolastoqiyik peoples. Based on the treaties of peace and friendship, we all have a responsibility to play. And so it's really important, again, just to acknowledge that before we begin.
Excellent. I love it. So Jenica, I did warn you, I always like to start off with like a weird little question, just to make this more comfortable for the both of us, even though we're probably both comfortable. It's fine. So first off, what is your most useless talent?
I don't even know that I have a lot of talents that are either useful or useless, to be honest. So, I don't really know.
You can't like blow bubbles out your nose or anything?
Not really.
No. Okay.
I can hold my breath really long underwater.
That's kind of impressive. Okay. Like, you know, if I needed to be rescued, I might call you in that kind of circumstance. I can appreciate that. For another one, what are 3 things that one might find under your bed?
Lots of dog hair and dust bunnies, unfortunately.
Typical.
A couple pairs of socks, maybe, that have gone missing, and a dartboard. For some reason, it's ended up under my bed.
A dartboard. Are there darts under the bed as well? With the dartboard?
Just the dartboard, yeah.
Okay, sure.
I find a place for it in the house.
Okay, but under the bed is where it goes for right now. Okay, I love that. That's a good spot for it. So to start off with this interview, I just kind of want to get a feel as to why are you running for mayor?
Oh, that's great question. I'm getting asked that a lot.
I figured.
And really, I mean, after giving 2 terms as a member of parliament and kind of, not reoffering because I've got young children and wanting to stay closer to home, I was thinking, what's next for me? And I've always wanted to continue to give back and bring that experience, back to my home community. And so when I saw that the opportunity was there to run for municipal governance, I got really excited about it and the possibilities. And it's the level of government that's the closest to the people, and that's really what I'm all about. And so to be able to affect change that people can see and feel on a daily basis is just, really exciting to me. So it would be an honor to represent the city of Fredericton.
So let's start off with question 1. Recent budget discussions included proposed cuts to transit, trail lighting, and river access. Additionally, 2,100 local families are currently experiencing food insecurity. Mm-hmm. While taxes are a concern, the services act as a safety infrastructure for marginalized groups. Some candidates have held power since 2008, yet these issues have reached a crisis point. If elected, will you commit to protecting the budget for public transit, trail lighting, and community food programs from future cuts?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's the simple answer. And really, if you look at the city's municipal plan, if you look at the public safety task force recommendations, they're all centered around improving that connectivity, ensuring there's adequate lighting, that there's kind of a safety lens around planning. And so to kind of roll back any of that, it doesn't actually align with what our priorities are as a city. And so really easy, I think, to get that kind of consensus with new municipal candidates or council members after they're elected, because it's clear that that's how we serve our community. That's how we navigate our community. That's how, again, we can ensure safety and access and trails and parks. And so, I mean, that's a huge part of what my platform's been this entire campaign. So absolutely, we have to protect the budget around those services.
And how will you ensure that cost-saving measures never disproportionately harm residents who rely on municipal services for their basic mobility and safety? I guess a lot of people have been having issues with like sidewalks, for an example, of people parking on the sidewalks and people can't access those sidewalks due to wheelchairs or whatnot. I've seen it, and it causes a lot of issues. So yeah, for that, I'm just curious of how are you going to ensure those cost savings go to those people?
Well, just in general, we need to improve accessibility in the city. So that's got to be a major focus that will take investment and will take it being a priority. I also am really big on economic development, on attracting investment, on revenue generation, because we need money to be able to achieve the goals that we have as a city. So we can't just rely on our property taxes for 80% of our budget, as an example. I'm looking for other ways to find cost savings to boost what we have. We need to keep building. So cuts are not really a big part of what I want to bring at all. But again, it's ensuring we have the resources to make sure that we can have our dreams come true, if I can put it in those kinds of ways. I've already been in conversations with some of our, fellow municipal leaders who are hopeful to be elected in this election, and they have great ideas on how we can partner, and there's cost savings with some of those agreements. I'm looking at policing, for example. There might be a way to look at some of the contracts that they have with the RCMP, bring in Fredericton Police instead, and that savings for our budget that we can then apply to these kinds of other accessibility concerns, or in general social, determinants of health that we know that, whatever municipal levers that we have, we've got to be able to pay for them. So finding those cost savings is essential for me.
You've been in a position of power to make change for many years. Did you act proactively to address the concerns of Frederictonians hold today before they became crises?
Well, so I, as a member of Parliament, my 2 terms from 2019 and 2021, proactivity is the name of the game. I'm a big data-driven decision maker, and so I'm always kind of looking at trends and trying to predict and try to get ahead of these things, because we can mitigate a lot of our issues if we can get ahead of them and improve our communication around them and bring people in. That kind of buy-in is really important. So that's always been my approach. Of course, on the federal side of things, it's a bigger apparatus. It's, you're working within different departments, different ministers, the will of the government. And so again, that's what's exciting to me about municipal governance, is I might actually be in a position to make more of an impact on that local level than ever before. And absolutely being proactive is the name of the game. That's all about my approach.
As a municipal leader, how will you use your platform to advocate to the provincial government for a centralized gender-affirming care clinic in Fredericton? What role can the city play in supporting the infrastructure of land use needs for such a facility to ensure residents have a safe, clear entry point for care?
Mm-hmm. So zoning, of course, it's one of the levers that we have in the municipal government. City planning, using that lens again around safety and access to healthcare spaces. We can also offer different incentives, right? We can make sure that there's spaces that are available. There's property tax discussions there as well, for sure. But again, it would be a team decision there with the council. But I've always advocated for Fredericton to be this kind of hub for, excellence in care. Clinic 554 was so important to me. I did everything that I could on the federal side of things to ensure that we were holding the province accountable if there, for clawbacks to the Canada Health transfer, if that was what was going to kind of send the message. Didn't always work. We got funding as well to continue the research to really tell the story better, because we were always being told the data didn't represent what we were trying to push as the initiative. And so we did that. Now we have the data to work with as well. So anything we can do to keep telling that story, and just to show that it's part of our identity in Fredericton. It's something we should be really excited about and to celebrate. But in order to do that, we need to have the services that match that ambition. And so right now we don't have that. It's because we've unfortunately lost a lot of those incredible experts who have that experience to bring that to the table. So that advocacy piece is huge. We can do that convening power as a municipality. We can work together also with other leaders and kind of joint campaigns, letter writing, going to Ottawa, going to our legislature, and ensuring that they know that this is a priority for us.
Yeah, I know that's important to a lot of people in Fredericton. What are you doing to improve healthcare for trans and intersex people specifically? What specific municipal proposals will you bring forward to improve healthcare access for trans, intersex, and gender diverse people in our city?
Well, again, it comes back to the advocacy piece, always including that lens when we're talking about healthcare in general. And that's always a priority for me to bring it into those conversations. We are limited in what we can do in the municipal space. And so it's going to be having to learn about wherever we can find those areas to have an impact. And again, working with federal and provincial counterparts is always essential with that. Working with organizations on the ground who have the experience as well. Listening is really important, and then actioning what we're hearing on the ground. It's going to be complex, but it's always including that as part of the discussion is first and foremost what we need to do. Fortunately, there's still an education piece, right? There's the awareness, and we constantly kind of have to get people up to speed, which is frustrating at this point in time, but that's some of the work that needs to be done too. And if we don't find that alignment, it's again then making very convincing arguments about why. So using the data, using the research that exists, because there's a mountain of it,
Let's use it. Correct. Susan Holt, you heard it from us. We're looking at you. No, I'm just kidding. For municipal recruitment, the City of Fredericton recently partnered with the Chamber of Commerce and Ignite to welcome doctors beyond the social efforts. Will you support using municipal funds for direct financial incentives, such as subsidized office spaces or housing grants, to compete with other provinces?
It's finding whatever levers that we have, and if there are financial levers, we have to pull them, but again, ensuring that we have the resources to back that up. So it's part of the vision of growing and kind of our economic development goals, and then using that to achieve the social aims and the health, social determinants that we want to see in the city. So it's a puzzle, right? But I'm very good at
this for new family doctors.
Yeah, so again, it's problem solving, and so that's what it's all about.
People helping people, included, are currently without a family doctor and rely on after-hours clinics or specialty doctors. How will you use your position to advocate for more municipal supported walking capacity while the province works on a long-term attachment?
Well, I mean, our premier lives in our city, right? And so I think it's important that we really lean on that, because she knows very well how we're very underserved.
Thousands of Frederictonians, myself,
in the city, not just in New Brunswick, but across the country, unfortunately. That's not one of the things we want to be known for. And so continuing to help them. I know that healthcare is a major aim for our current provincial government, but it's, just again, highlighting the urgency. And I'm hearing this in all my conversations with all different communities, knocking on doors. This is what's brought up time and time again. And the more that we kind of see this crisis building, the more that our health outcomes continue to suffer. And so there's no time to waste on this in particular. But again, it's like finding those levers. Part of it is ensuring we have a livable city. I mean, there's some things we can talk about as far as amenities or make quality of life, to say, hey, doctors, you want to come with this collaborative care team and work in our amazing downtown core? Here's what we have to offer you. So I think it's a bit of selling ourselves as well, showing why maybe they should stay with us instead of popping over to PEI or to Nova Scotia. So there's lots of things we can do, I think, to incentivize in that way. But I know a lot's been tried around recruitment. I will give huge props to the former mayor and council for what they've done around this, and they'd be the first to admit that it moved the dial very little. So it's about thinking outside the box. We've got to be even more creative in that recruitment side of things. And I think I'm really good at selling Fredericton for how amazing we are, and I think I'd like to keep doing that.
Look at all of Eli's, go Eli. Safety and actions. So obviously we've been having a lot more crime in the city and other things. As mayor, what will you do to ensure the safety of hosts and attendees so that positive events like drag story time can proceed without threats or disruption?
Well, so there's financial contributions there again around security or ensuring just that there's a presence so that people can feel safe when they're doing their business, when they're attending these kinds of events, when they want to bring their children and show them what an inclusive community is. Again, it's about celebrating and promoting. There's the unnecessary division and the ugly rhetoric that we've seen around this. I think it's about, again, calling it out, saying it's not acceptable, that this is not who we are in Fredericton, and so it's all part of that. But again, it's about making those commitments to ensuring the safety aspect is there, and understanding when the events are happening and make sure that the resources are in place.
What specific actions will you take to ensure that members of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, and in particular the youth, are safe and thriving in Fredericton? I think that falls into similar of the other one.
Well, there is part of it is also ensuring that we elevate their voices, and empowering them as well, especially the youth. It's the idea that it gets better, really showing them what some of those tangible examples really are. And part of that is knowing you have a mayor and council that are behind you and believe in you and support what your dreams are, and create, again, that inclusive, safe, welcoming environment. So I really want to be a more accessible, city hall, more even in-person town halls, just more opportunities for that feedback and engagement piece. And so that includes, again, just creating that space, that environment that's ready to have those conversations and say, we got your back.
How will you work with the police commission to ensure hate-motivated incidents against queer and trans youth are addressed with the same urgency as other public safety threats?
Yeah, so I'm big on culture change, and the idea that we have our Fredericton Police Force is kind of this little microcosm where I think we can make change.
Yes.
I have a good relationship with our current chief of police, and I think he's also willing to look into what that conversation entails as far as education and awareness, even things like exposing the police force members to things like blanket exercises, or understanding some of the forces that are at play, having that intersectionality lens and applying that to public safety. And so that's not always something that they're challenged to do. So sometimes it's about having those maybe uncomfortable conversations, but ensuring that we're having them. And from that leadership side of things, so that it's not just voluntary, it's something that we expect.
The UNESCO. UNESCO?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is.
It's like the international body that looks after
Thank you. Okay.
human rights. Yeah.
UNESCO standards. Will you prioritize maintaining Fredericton's membership in the UNESCO coalition? How will you ensure these principles are actively integrated into city policy and budget decisions rather than remaining just a label?
Well, I didn't know that we were part of that.
I had no idea any of this.
But it's good to know. And so, I mean, certainly, if we've already kind of made a commitment as a city, then maintaining that's going to be important. So it'll be important for all of us around the table to know what that commitment means.
Yeah.
And to move beyond the kind of the symbolic nature of it. But I mean, in general, we should be adhering to international human rights standards. I think that's pretty important.
I totally agree. Okay. Social inclusion committee. SIC currently can only provide advice that the council may choose to ignore. How will you ensure that the SIC has a formal influential role in city planning, such as a seat at the budget table, rather than remaining purely advisory?
Oh, so, I mean, that's also good for me to know as far as like procedurally how things are running in City Hall. And so learning a bit more about the role of advisory committees and yeah, the advice and the recommendations that they come forward with after they've done their kind of internal studies or, whatever the process is for the committee, it's going to be important for us to listen to them. I'm sure there's no formal mechanism to ensure that it's directly reflected because individual council members, of course, have their vote. But that's all part of being a leader. That's what the mayor's role really is ensuring you're doing that consensus building, that maybe you're lobbying your council members before a vote or before a motion is tabled so that they're on the same page. So, I mean, that's all part of the process of making sure we move things forward, in a good way. So, yeah. I mean, that would be part of that conversation.
Will you mandate that all city signage and policy documents replace the term feminine hygiene products with menstrual products or period products to acknowledge that not all people who menstruate are women and not all women menstruate?
Well, that's interesting. So I wonder, first I wonder how many times or where that is in some of the language of the city. So it would have to be a bit of an investigation. But of course, we want to use inclusive language as much as humanly possible. I just think it represents who we are again in the city. Yeah. And so there may be some efforts already to undertake some of that. So I'd have to learn a bit more what that process is, but yeah.
To ensure dignity and privacy, will you commit to installing trash receptacles in every single stall in all municipal washrooms, men's, women, and gender inclusive, so that residents can dispose of menstrual or incontinence products discreetly?
Well, and the incontinence examples is something that maybe we don't think about it all the time. So it's thoughtful planning. That's really what we want to see from the city. And so if that's a need that's been identified, it's incumbent upon us to respond to that.
Will you support city-funded public education initiatives to raise awareness about intersex variations and the importance of bodily autonomy?
Yeah, education is a critical component of what I hope to usher in. Because again, it's that learning. It's how you find that consensus and build that alignment. And I would be interested to see kind of where people's knowledge levels are at, right? Yeah. That's going to be part for me of the onboarding process for council members too, is like, okay, what's our knowledge base? Where are we coming from? What's our perspective on a lot of these issues,
What concrete steps will you take to ensure the city of Fredericton remains a safe, inclusive employer and service provider for the 2S LGBTQIA+ people?
So again, that goes back to some of that culture change stuff. And as a leader, you got to be identifying where there might be unsafe spaces or language or behaviors. It's also, protecting people's their rights in the workplace in general. It's about anti-discrimination. And so that should be really clear and like kind of black and white on where we're meeting that test or not. And so, as mayor, you bear a responsibility in ensuring that everybody is able to work in an inclusive and safe space. And you would wear that if not, right? So it's got to be a top priority.
Yeah. Beyond symbolic gestures, what concrete steps will you take to increase the representation of BIPOC residents in senior city leadership and on municipal boards?
Well, it goes back again to that environment. If you create a space that is welcoming, you're going to get a diversity of people who want to join that space and have their voice be respected, because otherwise it can be incredibly intimidating, or you might be traumatized or hurt in that process, and we can't have that happen at all. Representation is key. Even, noticing the folks who are putting their names forward for mayor and council. We're a pretty homogenous group, and I really would love to aim to change that. We need much more diversity, and I'm also really big on talking about even how permanent residents should be able to vote in our municipal elections. They pay taxes, they're deeply involved in our community. So absolutely, if I'm given this ability to have a little bit of influence in what happens in our city, that's one of my priorities that I've been talking about actually at the doors as well, just that, representation matters.
Would you commit to fully funding a permanent, physically and financially accessible cultural space where ethno-cultural communities can showcase their history and contributions?
Oh, well, I love that. And that's coming up a lot too. I mean, of course, we've got the cultural center, but it's, bursting at the gills as far as what they can offer, the capacity that they have, or just in their workforce, their volunteers. And so in the different communities, I've heard from their leaders that they need more cultural spaces, whether it's to have a baby shower or, it's not always just about the big events every year. It's about everyday things, places to gather, places for, elders to come and have some tea and maybe interact with the youth, or just to cook and share and talk. And that's all about building that more connected community, which is one of my central pillars. So cultural spaces is a huge part of that. Not to bring in a hot button issue, but the NBX is a bit of that conversation, is like wanting to have more cultural spaces for access for whatever is happening in the community. So there's a lot of dialogue around that right now. And I think I'm hearing it with a lot of the people running for council too. So I'm optimistic that that's something that we'll be able to deliver.
Invisible disabilities. How will you ensure that the city's inclusive municipality framework explicitly protects those with invisible disabilities, neurodivergence, chronic pain, brain conditions?
Well, it's another example of, nothing about us without us, and I've got really great relationships with a lot of the leaders in the disability community. I'll give a shout out to Shelley Petit, MD Person Disability Coalition as well. And so I defer to their knowledge on this, their expertise, and there's incredible research and mapping that's already been done to show where some of the improvements need to be made. And again, it's a leadership thing. It's ensuring that, in those spaces that we're educating, we're bringing that awareness, that we're making the necessary changes. And so for a lot of people, that's kind of a new part of the conversation around accessibility. So sometimes there's a bit of that learning curve that's there, but it's important to get us up to speed.
Will you implement a universal design bylaw that requires all new city-funded infrastructure, including affordable housing projects, to exceed minimum provincial codes? These questions are excellent.
I was going to say, that's a fantastic question, because it can actually unlock some of the housing that's currently kind of bottlenecked in some of these situations. I think universal design is just smart. I think it's, there of course is a financial kind of element to it, but if you can demonstrate the benefits, most developers can kind of see like, oh, I can understand why that would be important. As far as mandating, again, the mayor is like a tiebreaker.
Yes.
So it's about leadership again. It's about 1,000%. Convening power. It's about lobbying your community members or your council members. And so, that's something I've been talking about for years, just based on the learning that I was given from having, discussions and briefings with these organizations. And so it's really important. And again, it unlocks some of that stock that we currently can't access right now for those who have those needs.
Interesting. For sensory spaces, will you commit to including a sensory-friendly hours or quiet zones in all city-managed recreational facilities and public events? I noticed they do that with the pool at the NASAS, which is awesome, as well as they have female, women empowerment ones. They do a lot of really cool stuff at the Natural Access Pool. Nice. But it would be cool to see at the Y or other gyms, whatnot. I'm curious if that's something you would be willing to for public facilities.
Yeah, well, you can kind of bring everybody together and talk about best practices. You can get some testimonials of just how important it is and how it's maybe impacted somebody's life. And I think that's an easy way to bring people along in that. And I would think most facilities and the people who are operating it would be definitely willing to do that. Just again, the prevalence in our community. So many of us have a family member, it just makes sense to do that for sure. It's to be respectful and create, again, those inclusive spaces.
Will you commit to funding culturally specific senior programming and ensure that the municipal elder services reflect the diverse backgrounds of Fredericton's aging population?
Oh, for sure. Actually, it makes me think of the Stepping Stone Senior Center. We've got an event coming up tomorrow, but again, we have fierce advocates in that space in our city, and it's high time that we listen to them. On the federal side of things, I know there was tons of outreach. We tried to make some tweaks to different parts of legislation, and it just never seemed to go far enough. And so, whatever levers we have in the municipal space, again, it's really just about ensuring that we do address that isolation piece. That's, again, part of that connectivity. It's ensuring that we know who our neighbors are, that we're checking in on them. There are ways that we can do that, creating just more opportunities and activities to engage. I want the youth and the seniors, we just get them together more often. There's so much parallel there. But it's what I'm hearing a lot. I'm really concerned, that so many older adults are just, alone a lot. And part of that too is our communication methods, right? We can't just be posting everything on Facebook.
No, because they don't check that.
No.
Yeah.
So this door knocking, as I've done with any election, I really want to encourage council members and whoever the mayor shall be to get back out there and knock on the doors again. If you got something happening in the community, get a paper flyer, knock on the door and personally invite somebody. And you're more likely to go to something if you've got that personal invitation. We're like, oh, that warm, friendly face is going to be there. Maybe I'll go to them.
1,000%.
Because it's intimidating as well.
Oh my gosh,
it's not easy to get out there in the community.
No, it is not. What specific municipal proposals, such as inclusive housing initiatives, will you bring into addressing their unique needs and ensure elders age with dignity?
So that will be working a lot with our provincial partners on that piece. And I know it's a priority for our current provincial government as well. I was just at an announcement where there was a lot more emphasis around supporting aging in place.
Perfect.
Dignity and aging. And I want that for myself. I want that for my parents. I want that for anyone.
Yes.
And so, it's mostly going to be in their jurisdiction, but we always have a role to play around that advocacy piece.
Will you mandate transgender and intersex inclusive competency training for all city-funded elder care staff to ensure residents' bodily autonomy and personal histories are respected?
Well, I wonder how many city-funded elder care staff that we have, actually.
I'm curious about this now,
so
too. Yeah.
For sure, you've got to have that skill set if you're working in that space.
These questions are great.
Yeah, really specific, for sure. I wouldn't know what that looks like because, again, I'm not sure how many folks will be captured under that. But training is essential. And I think, again, it's part of the culture shift I keep talking about. There's lots of ways we can do that. There's lots of really great programs out there that can get that dialogue kind of started. I'll look into that.
Yeah, that's again, some of these, a lot of them are really good, but then you just have ones that you're like, what? It's excellent. Public service training. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls upon all levels of government to provide education to public servants on the history of Aboriginal peoples, including the legacy of residential schools and UNDRIP.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Will you commit it to making this training mandatory and recurring for all City of Fredericton staff, including the Fredericton Police Force?
Well, this is my jam. I don't know if anyone knows anything about me. That's what I used to do before politics as well. It was, it was awareness training. It was around anti-discrimination, anti-racism. And so that education piece is the foundation of all of that. There's actually a lot we can do as a municipality to reach our truth and reconciliation goals. Some of the low-hanging fruit, for example, is having a monument to TRC in every capital city in Canada. We don't have one in Fredericton. So that's something that we can work together. There's funding through Heritage Canada to make that happen. So it's about making it a priority.
Yeah.
So absolutely. And the training piece is part of that. I mentioned, the onboarding for staff and for new council members to have a blanket exercise to really kind of center where we're all coming from and really have an understanding and grasp of what that means, but to bring in kind of anyone, in City Hall. I think it just builds people's confidence as well in addressing some of those issues where sometimes people maybe don't have the language or they're afraid to ask questions. But if you create that safe space, I think that there's more likely to get that buy-in.
Yeah.
That's my passion is doing that and continuing the great relationship with Sidansis First Nation as well, major economic driver in our community, continuing to celebrate their successes. There was a dedicated liaison position that was created just within this last mayor and council. Shout out to them. That worked very well. Calvin Thompson, he's great.
Okay.
Just as far as making sure there's always that open communication, because Indigenous leaders and community members should be driving this change as well, right? So It's always, again, in listening to them and having it be Indigenous led. So yes, it's the short answer, but there's lots of really great ways to do that.
Excellent. Beyond symbolic gestures, what concrete actions will you take to support the Wolastoq
Sidansis. T's or D's. That's how yeah.
I'm French and English here. Okay, hold on for me. Sidansis?
Almost. I hope I'm saying it correctly, but that's how I would say it. Yeah. So St. Mary's.
Thank you. Beyond symbolic gestures, what concrete actions will you do to support the Wolastoq St. Mary's First Nation.
So same thing as I mentioned, is kind of continuing that liaison position, ensure that it's a true partnership, that it's not kind of, here's a decision we've already made that affects you. It's come on in, let's have, let's ahead of things, that prior and informed consent is so essential to live up to that. Of course, honoring UNDRIP is huge as well. Not a lot of folks even are knowing what that means, but it's a really comprehensive, United Nations framework for honoring Indigenous peoples and using that lens in decision making as well. So, I mean, just kind of anything that happens in the city of Fredericton, they need to be brought in to be part of that conversation, as well as traditional governance. So the Willistic Grand Council will be part of those conversations as well, and just the broader, urban Indigenous community. We, because of our amazing post-secondary institutions, we've got folks from all over Canada, and so working really closely with Under One Skies, our Friendship Center, is also going to be really important. So there's lots of mechanisms there. It's good to see that a lot of that work has been started over the last 5 years, where I would argue there was a major lack before that, but continuing to build and maintain that.
How will the city support the revitalization of the Willistic language in public spaces, dual language street signs and transit announcements?
Well, I love that. So, I mean, I'm a mom of two Willistic little boys.
Yeah.
And language is everything. That's really what's part and parcel for, cultural revitalization. It's really, language is such a powerful vehicle for that. So I would love to see more signage around the city, just to get people more comfortable with how it works, understanding some of those T's and D's and K's and G's and things, and just building up your proficiency a little bit, right? So you can start small and we can get bigger, and there's ways to have language nests and support a lot of that infrastructure. Gekiman Immersion Language School, of course, shout out to Lisa Perley-Dutcher on that, just supporting what they're doing and making sure that they can also find the resources to continue, because that's been a challenge, the space. So all of that is part of that conversation. But I love that that's a question, and I'm so grateful. So thank you very much for that and making it a priority, because it's not always on top of everybody's list, but we need to make sure that we're honoring First Peoples.
Honestly, the Pride community absolutely nails this. I learned something new when I seem to do these, so this is wonderful. Given the ongoing genocide in Gaza and the document failure of previous ceasefire attempts as of early 2026, what is your position on the city of Fredericton's role in global solidarity?
So that's a good question. Again, it's going to be, I think, education for some of maybe new members or people who just aren't familiar with what's been happening. And so it's supporting, the community in the city who are, feeling this, who are losing family members also. It's about, applying that compassionate lens always. And so there's, that's part of what I really like about municipal politics, is because it's that local level where we can just kind of, reinforce what we have here. And the globe is a scary place right now. And so it's tough on the municipal side to know really what that role looks like. But I mean, you can host public dialogues. You can have, again, education pieces, panels. There's some ways that we can help in that education and awareness building. But I do know it would be getting some people to get up to speed, which would be a bit of a challenge at times. And sometimes people are not willing to enter into those conversations as well.
Correct. How will you ensure that the 2S LGBTQIA people and women, including transgender, cisgender, and gender diverse individuals, are not just consulted, but hold decision-making power on city boards and commissions?
Well, that's again about creating a safe space on those boards and commissions first, because you certainly don't want to have someone come and, offer expertise and then be disrespected, because it's the quickest way to kind of lose any of that traction that we've already built. So leadership, modeling, it's really important to me. And so I want to make sure that that's important to the council and to the city. So that's part of what I bring, I think, is what I'm excited about offering, is some of that. Well, I always just say that, that it's the work should speak for itself.
1,000%.
Because again, you can say all kinds of things, you can put out fancy statements, but you've got to live by that. And so, I mean, integrity is everything to me. I got to be able to look at myself in the mirror in the morning. I got to be able to look at my children and say, I did all I could to create a better world for you. And so that's what's my kind of guiding principle always. And that will continue to be the case.
In a climate of rising threats, municipal silence can be interpreted as a lack of support. What is your planned social media and public communication strategy for Pride and other cultural events? Will you commit to using the city's official channel to actively defend these communities against online and physical harassment?
So again, I talk about, the idea of really owning and celebrating and having it be part of, it is part of our identity in Fredericton. And so I think it's just more about getting excited about that. I think naturally it would become something that you'd see more on the social media channels.
Yeah.
Anytime you're seeing hateful language or rhetoric, you have to deal with it right away, because if you're just kind of letting it stand, I think silence is harmful in that situation, right? So there's a responsibility there. Hello. And there's lots more that we can do. And it's again, modeling leadership. It's all there. And I think that it should be easy for our city at this point to make sure that we're supporting those kinds of spaces, especially online.
We'd hope so anyway. We really hope so.
Well, and of course, I've seen how damaging social media can be. It's not my favorite place. And so I want to speak more about that.
Everyone who's running, it takes courage to run. Mm-hmm. Someone is always going to be like, they are not the right person. They are not my person. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. But there has to be a form of respect, I think. Even if you don't like that candidate, I don't care. But you still don't have to be rude or, belittle them. There's just no need for it. And it really upsets me.
Communicate as if our grandmother was in the room. Even if you have a disagreement, there's a way to carry ourselves, especially if you're in a public space. People are using their real names and saying things with their whole chest. It's like, okay,
we get it. No, I'm totally with you. So I think the last main question: how will you, if elected mayor, personally and professionally support and champion Fierté Fredericton Pride and other marginalized cultural festivals to ensure they are celebrated as essential to the Fredericton's identity?
Participation. I love to be involved just as a citizen, but just again continuing to promote that using the city channels as well, and just again, it's about how we frame things. And if we frame it as in celebratory and in welcoming, then we can get more people interested and excited about it too. So I'll be there. I think that's kind of the easiest way to do that, is in modeling, is in walking that talk and just showing that it's important to me and why it's important to me. And then hopefully others will come to join that.
Are you going to come and drag this year?
Well, if I have someone who can do me up, because it's not easy.
I'm sure we can find someone. There's people. We'll find it.
The wig was the funnest part.
Is there anything else you might want to say to anyone that's watching, the Pride community that follows us, or again, anyone that's just watching? This is your last hurrah.
It's always about lifelong learning for me. So if there's anything that, that I should be knowing or reading or, send it my way, because I said I'm a big data person. And so it's just always helping to strengthen that dialogue and be stronger and more secure in my ability to kind of bring these things forward. And so just, ongoing commitment is important to me. And, I'm an ally and I want to continue to be a strong ally. And I want to be, the mayor that is, the Pride community knows is their mayor.
I love that. That's excellent. So what we'll do then is, for this video, I'll make sure that we attach Jenica's profile so that with all of her contact information. So if there is anything you do want to bring to her attention, keep that communication open in a respectful manner. But other than that, I'd say we're good. Thank you so much for meeting with me. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck. My hands are hot, so it's great. It's like a hot and cold thing. It's fine. No, that was excellent. I really do appreciate meeting with you, and I really do wish you the best of luck with the candidacy.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you again. Amazing questions. It's just,
you guys nailed this out of the ballpark.